Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Hari.
And I'm Kimi. Today, we are taking a stroll down to Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan to look at a building that was once dubbed the Green Kremlin. We are talking about 330 West 42nd Street, historically known as the McGraw-Hill Building.
It is an absolute titan of architectural history. Standing 485 feet tall with 33 stories, it features a wild blend of Art Deco, Art Moderne, and the International style. Completed in 1931, the design was meant to evoke the city's earlier factory buildings, but it ended up looking like an ocean liner docked in the middle of the city. The sheer scale, with setbacks required by the 1916 zoning resolution, makes it a true monolithic beauty.
But Hari, what fascinates me most is what almost stood on this very spot. Before McGraw-Hill bought the land in 1930, a developer named John A. Larkin acquired the site for something completely unhinged. He wanted to build the Larkin Tower, a 110-story, 1,208-foot-tall office skyscraper.
It would have been the tallest building in the world at the time, but critics hated the extreme height, and financially it made zero sense. The upper floors would have been so tiny they would be virtually useless. To think, if Larkin had his way, Hell's Kitchen would have been home to an economically unviable spire of stone and steel. So the project was scrapped and McGraw-Hill swooped in, picking up the lot for a bargain.
And thank goodness they did, because they hired the brilliant Raymond Hood, along with J. Andre Fuluho, to design it. Hood was a visionary. He believed the future skyline of New York City would consist of gaily colored buildings, and boy did he deliver on the color here.
He really did. The facade is covered in blue-green terracotta ceramic panels. He actually considered Chinese red, orange, and yellow before settling on blue-green. It was chosen specifically for its atmospheric quality, so it would blend beautifully with the sky regardless of the weather conditions. However, while Hood chose the blue-green terracotta to match the sky, the idea of choosing terracotta specifically to resist city soot is actually famously attributed to other architects like Kaz Gilbert.
Which sounds poetic, but not everyone was a fan. McGraw-Hill executive James H. McGraw, Jr., who supposedly picked the color himself, was away during most of the 1931 construction. When he finally returned and saw it, he was completely appalled. The public wasn't much kinder, coming up with nicknames like the Green Giant and the Green Monster.
Even the architectural critics were polarized. The building emphasized horizontal lines, which was a hallmark of the emerging international style, but at the time, skyscrapers were all about verticality. A critic writing for The New Yorker complained, saying that a tall building, considered as a mass, goes up, not sideways. You also have to appreciate the detailing. There are more than 4,000 windows on the structure, and the vertical dividers were painted vermilion red to trick the eye into seeing a single continuous horizontal band.
Despite the haters, it was actually the only New York City skyscraper featured in the Museum of Modern Art's legendary 1932 International Style exhibition. It was groundbreaking. The building even functioned like a machine. McGraw-Hill designed the lower floors specifically for industrial printing presses.
Actually, I have to correct that. While the Globe building's lower floors do feature 18.5-foot ceilings and heavy load capacities that eventually accommodated massive printing presses, the structure was originally designed specifically as a railroad terminal and freight hub, not a printing facility. Meanwhile, the executives were up in the elegant 32nd and 33rd floor penthouses.
Speaking of the upper floors, during World War II, the building's massive number of windows made it a huge liability for air raid blackouts. Later on, in the 1950s, the Port Authority actually put traffic spotters on the 35th floor. They used two-way radios and an early CCTV camera to direct traffic going into the Lincoln Tunnel. By the way, another incredible historical nugget is that pulp publisher Martin Goodman founded Timely Comics in this very building in 1939. That little company eventually evolved into Marvel Comics.
Talk about a multi-purpose space. But the glory days didn't last forever. By 1972, McGraw-Hill outgrew the building and moved to Rockefeller Center. Their old green masterpiece sat entirely vacant for 3 years. Can you imagine? A historic 33-story skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan, completely empty with just a 10-person maintenance crew keeping the lights on?
It was bleeding money, losing $650,000 a year just in taxes and upkeep. The neighborhood had become quite rough, making developers incredibly hesitant to invest. Finally, group health insurance bought the whole thing in 1974 for a mere $5.5 million. That was less than 10% of what McGraw-Hill paid for their new headquarters.
A staggering steal. Over the following decades, the building changed hands several times and finally achieved official landmark status. When Newmark and Company took over in 1980, they even installed a massive angular metal sculpture called Boomerang by Owen Morrell. It was mounted 300 feet up on the southeast corner. Sadly, it had to be dismantled in the late 90s due to severe deterioration, but for a while it gave the building an edge of pure avant-garde art.
Definitely. Fast forward to the 21st century, and 330 West 42nd Street has been caught in a whirlwind of modern real estate drama. In 2021, the owners sparked outrage among preservationists by demolishing the building's iconic, streamlined Art Deco lobby. The Landmarks Preservation Commission actually declined to protect it because it had been altered too much back in the 1980s.
And the saga continues today. With the massive drop in demand for office space following the COVID-19 pandemic, the upper floors are actively being converted into luxury residential apartments. Just last year, foreclosure proceedings began as developers struggled with the debt. The green monster is still fighting for its place in the modern world.
It certainly is, but its legacy is undeniable. From a controversial, horizontally striped printing factory to a celebrated piece of the Manhattan skyline, 330 West 42nd Street remains a true survivor. Thank you all for joining us on this architectural journey. Have a wonderful day and keep looking up.
This episode is based on the Wikipedia article 330 West 42nd Street, which is available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license. This podcast was crafted using artificial intelligence.